Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Gapfillers podcast. This is a continuation of what I've talked about in the past, primarily to do with the Cloward Piven strategy, but I want to dig into detail about how that relates to the immigration debate and ongoing ICE operations in Minnesota. So we'll get into that, and then I want to touch on that will lead to a little bit of a gentleman's name by Saul Alinsky. He's a highly regarded, activist, revolutionary, troublemaker, whatever, for the Democrats. And the Democrats, since the 70s, have been running both of these strategies, and frankly, the Republicans have failed to counter in any meaningful way because they're not even thinking on the same level. So let's get into it. So who are Cloward and Piven? All right, so Cloward and Piven were sociologists, professors from Columbia School of Social Work, and they became famous when they in the 60s they published this article in The Nation called "The Weight of the Poor: A Strategy to End Poverty." All right, and so this was, height of the Cold War, and their strategy was basically this, right? We have a subset of poor people, and we want to bring about what is now considered today universal basic income. So they wanted guaranteed income. And in their view, this would do away with poverty in America. Their problem, though, there wasn't enough poor people. Or that poor people were content enough in their status to not uprise. And so they needed to convince the Democratic Party in the 60s, who both controlled both houses and the presidency, and then did for quite a while. At that time, they had, through Johnson and Kennedy, after Eisenhower, they held on to it for a stretch there, and never really went anywhere with it, so to speak. And they didn't have a mass strategy. They were almost like modern day, the neocons, where they don't have a strategy, or they don't have a ultimate purpose in what they do. Their goal was to kind of maintain power, the status quo, because it worked out for them. So they wrote in The Nation, basically they wanted. So this is a quote. Let's see here. They said that the weight of poor people would produce bureaucratic disruption in welfare agencies, and fiscal disruption in local and state governments. Well, we see that today. We see that primarily in Democratic states, right? New York, California, Minnesota. So and you can throw Illinois in there too as well. All right, so because you got a state like Florida has a much larger population than the city of New York City, and a much smaller federal budget or state budget for the entire state. So we in Florida spend much less and come out ahead on surplus with revenue. And there's nothing that New York City has that Florida has that they can't outcompete Florida for. They have they did have industry. They have the financial sector. They have massive tourism industry. So there's no reason why, if very well maintained, that the city of New York could not be on the same level as the entire state of Florida. Okay, but you have welfare programs, and now you have Mondani in there, which makes it worse. Which will only make it worse, rather. And his strategy is basically to expand the welfare, and that's ultimately what Cloward and Piven wanted. So they wanted the welfare system to implode on itself, to create a need for a massive redistribution of wealth. And that ended with universal income, or they called it guaranteed income. So they wrote, the ultimate objective of this strategy is to wipe out poverty by establishing a guaranteed annual income. While questioned by some, because the ideal of individual social and economic mobility has deep roots, even activists seem reluctant to call for national programs to eliminate poverty by the outright redistribution of income. So they were pushing for pretty much straight communism in that kind of form. And now this is one major calculation that they didn't take into account. Welfare has expanded, and for the most part, in the states and localities, it has succeeded. But they missed the opportunity, or they missed the grand picture of how massive the U.S. is and how much income and wealth we had all the way from World War II. After World War II, the U.S. was pretty much the only economy left standing at all. You had the Soviet Union, but they lost millions of people and couldn't expand into complex industrial processes because of the way communism works, or rather doesn't. So, all right. So capitalism in the U.S. in particular was able to expand their strategy. They wanted to put massive amounts of people into the welfare system. They did, especially in these Democrat-run spaces. Now, their strongholds weren't as strong as they are now today, and this is partially due to their strategy in those states. Since the 60s, there's been a Republican governor pretty much in California and New York and Illinois at some point. But their stronghold has recently gained a lot of traction, especially in the last 20 years. All right, so their strategy was to do that, to implode the welfare system. And this basically leads us into where we are today. Okay, in the 60s, we had a large amount of immigration take place, and that's when a lot of our immigration picked up. Rather, after the 30s. So in the 1920s and 30s, you had a strong nationalist movement or nativist movement that basically did away with the Ellis Island system of, as long as you can get here to a port of call, you can become an immigrant. Between World War I and World War II, that died off, largely because the World Wars and then the Great Depression that didn't really. You don't want to import people during a depression. If 30% of your population is unemployed, you don't want to import more people to compete with them. So yeah, you got that. You got their strategy, and the national economy was able to expand their system, and this would, in theory, allow Democrats to gain a permanent foothold, because they would be the bringers of the salvation, so to speak, by guaranteed income. Now, do they have guaranteed income in those places? No, but they have largely expanded their welfare states into such a place where now the only thing we can do is guarantee a basic income. We need to guarantee people's right to a house and to food and all these medical. And the problem is that people's needs never end. People overlap their wants and needs. Once all your needs are filled, your wants become your needs. And so, I want that new car. No, I need that new car. And then it come beyond and beyond that. So that's where their strategy kind of took place. Now, there's another gentleman or revolutionary. I can't find the right word for those. Those both seem too giving to this guy. His name is Saul Alinsky. Some of you may know who he is, but for those who don't, he wrote a book in the 70s called the Rules for Radicals, rather. Excuse me. And in 1971, he had 13 rules. Okay, and if you look at these rules, they're being implemented throughout the U.S. consistently since then. And they have to, it's like a frog boiling in water, right? If you can boil a frog because it's cold-blooded by putting it in cold water, in a pot of cold water, and slowly turning up the heat. But once as long as you keep that temperature only slowly rising, the frog will not realize that it's boiling and try to get out. So this is what has happened in Minnesota. This is what has happened in California, and particularly in New York City. But we're focusing on Minnesota right now because of the circumstances that are going on there. So, but actually, I want to take a step back. The point I wanted to make with the Cloward Piven strategy often has to do with immigration. So instead of dividing the American populace and the American citizenry, which was divided enough during the 60s, in the 70s, as the Vietnam War dragged out, which is what we'll get into here in a second. You would import more and more people, and then they would go on these welfare systems, inflating the federal government deficit and inflating the federal government's requirement to do this. Right? We have to expand our budget. We can never seem to cut. The only time we've ever balanced the budget since then is in the 90s. Frankly, under Bill Clinton with a Republican Congress. But since then, since Bush and since Obama and since Trump and since Biden, we've never been able, and no matter who's in office, we can never seem to even shrink the deficit, let alone a surplus to pay off the debt or let the debt mature. So Saul Alinsky had these 13 rules in his book. Number one, power is not only what you have, but what your enemy thinks you have. So this is the Democrats do this very well because they have a bunch of people that seem to be paid protesters that are able to show up at any moment in time. Anytime something bad happens, the Democrats are able to shove 20 people into a crowd and to stir up this crowd and to basically create mobs wherever they go. Republicans don't seem to be able to do this. Republicans are not organized. No matter how much Republicans love to claim that they'll be able to stand up to the government when it becomes tyrannical, they are not organized. And one person is not going to be able to stand up to much, especially if they are overweight, out of shape, and depending on their vehicle for transportation at any given point. So the Democrats are able to project their power, even though the government, it's often 50-50. As we saw in this last election, it was 52-48, something like that, off the top of my head. But if you went to any college campus, if you live in a city, you would think that the entire country is Democrat, and they'll have these organizers that show up out of nowhere and they're very well organized and very capable of projecting their power. Number two, never go outside the expertise or experience of your people. So basically, this avoids you don't get out of your lane. That's why they stick to 4 talking points, and they never seem to be able to go out of that. They'll always bring up the abortion one because you can project power they can project their power on abortion. Immigration. They used to be anti-war. They're not able to really claim that anymore, especially because Biden and the Democrat Party is so pro sending Ukraine money. not that this gives Republicans an out whatsoever. So they basically stick to their talking points. They don't have to create anything new because their Cloward Piven strategy in their welfare state is their ultimate goal. So they never have to vary outside of their realm. And then if the Republicans attack, you get into rule number 3. Whenever possible, go outside the expertise of the enemy. Okay, so you can always accuse they can always accuse the Republicans of being mean, which happened a lot. Happened with McCain and happened with Mitt Romney. Obama was very good at this because he was definitely a Saul Alinsky organizer. He spoke really great. He spoke highly of this guy. And so he was always able to put McCain and Romney on the back foot and made them move to the moderate position, which de-energizes their base, which allowed him to win. So Obama had the energy where Clinton and Biden did not. Biden was able to get in 2020 because of the massive upheaval of COVID. All right, so and then 4 years of being able to attack Trump, and we'll get beyond that. All right, so then you have rule number 4: make the enemy live up to his own book of rules. You've seen this. You see this a lot with communists, with socialists, with basically anybody. Ironically, anybody who seems to be of the people. So you see this with communists during World War II. Sending people into war without a weapon to overwhelm their system, to stretch their supply lines. So you had the Nazis and the Soviets fighting each other. The Soviets had no qualms about sending their men to die. Neither did the Nazis. They both were stuck in this idea of people don't matter, winning matters, and it really was between Stalin and Hitler. And so they have no qualms about sacrificing their own people. If there's people in the name of the country, Democratic Republic of the People's Republic of ... First of all, they don't care about their people. It often degrades into a person's a weight. A person is a burden, because if you're trying to outcompete somebody for resources and race to the bottom, they're a weight. They're in the way, and if they die, if they die in your cause, in the line of your cause, even better, because then you can turn their morality against them. You've seen that with Good, and you've seen that with Preddy in Minnesota. The Democrats really had no qualms about Kirk. They assassinated Charlie Kirk, and in the next day you had people praising him, praising the shooter. Really, and the Republicans, were very outraged, and we're going to unite, which in fact disunited the Republicans even more, because the Republican is the coalition party. So it's easy to separate and divide. And it's also easy to separate and divide when you have no clear strategy or end goal. Again, Democrats, radicals, communists, socialists all have their end goal. That's why it continually appears to be shifting. Like in the woke movement, it constantly shifts, but they have an end goal in mind. But they have to play towards that middle left, right? And they have to drag the middle left. Boil the frog. Obviously, with the radical change during Trump, it's been a good pushback. The frauds realized it's been boiled, but you can lull it to sleep again. Lower the temperature a little bit, and then slowly raise it again. All right, so. So you have Good and you have Preddy. Oh, moral outrage! This is a travesty. So it puts Trump on his back foot again, just like Obama did with McCain and with Romney. And so you have to get these fascists out of here. You have to ... You have to bow to our demands because your morality condemns you. They don't have the morality. They'll claim to have the morality. They'll always claim to have the moral high ground. But they have no qualms about sacrificing or using somebody's, claiming somebody, and then immediately pushing for, see, ICE needs to be disbanded. Escamani, who's running for Orlando mayor, basically said the same thing. So you make your enemy live up to your own rules. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. So it infuriates and hard to counter. So you often see this with the terms racist, with xenophobic. That's why they constantly throw those names out there. Because they're constantly trying to put you on your back foot. Oh no, I'm not a racist. Either that or it forces outrage and it makes you misstep, right? This is why, ironically, this is Trump's best used strategy in election times, with his names. Even little Marco and so on and so on. I can't think of any right now off the top of my head, but there are plenty. Ron DeSanctimonious and stuff like that. So it puts the political opponent on the back foot because either he has to back off because he doesn't want to be called a racist, or he gets mad, and then both don't look good on the debate stage, is what I'm told, and that it kills your morale. That's the way of saying that. Okay. So number 7, a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. So you gotta maintain pressure. You gotta basically cycle through people, and that's why they're looking to drag this out in the way of Trump, but not the protests. So yes, there have been ICE protests since Trump got into office, but their idea is they need a tragedy. They need the good. They need the pretty to cause that moral outrage. Because if it drags on too long, then your people, then the frog realizes or you don't boil a frog quick enough to maintain that analogy. So you can't keep the pressure on, which is number 8. So you never relent. You constantly have protests, and get them to relent before you have to. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. This goes all the way back to number 1. You have to bluff. And that's Trump's art of the deal. Basically, this rule book is almost the Democrat version of the art of the deal. And so you have to be able to bluff. You have to say, "Oh, we're going to war," and then settle for the people coming to the table and talking about it. So you have to bluff. You have to threaten burning down Minneapolis in order to get the rest of the country to pay attention, in order to get Trump to back off. Okay, so that's kind of their kind of way of going at it. Number 10, the major premise for tactics is conservation of energy and resources. All right, so you saw this during World War II with Mao Zedong, and he was able to appear like he was doing things and preserving his resources, sometimes fighting the republics, the Kuomintang, I think is the way you say that, sometimes fighting the Japanese, but mostly allowing them to attack each other. And by allowing them to attack each other and looking like he was doing stuff, he was able to get a lot of support from the U.S. without actually expending that support from the U.S. during World War II, and allowing himself to conserve energy for when the Japanese were yet even off of the island, off of the mainland. They were able to attack the Republicans in China. So you saw that. and then you conserve resources, right? If you have this moral outrage, if you have the media doing all your dirty work, all your legwork, you don't have to spend money on media, right? So if you have your organizers always in place, conserving energy, allowing third party, people that aren't necessarily your guys on the ground, but if your guys can influence the other guys to go do that thing, get arrested and stir up trouble. I've heard of stuff, things like that happening where you have one antagonizer that gets thrown into prison or into jail, whatever you want to call it, in the holding cell, and was able to rile up, basically make foot soldiers out of everybody else who was at that protest, just minding or maybe not minding their own business, but not really wanting to be that radical. And so you've seen that. Okay, so you pick your battles wisely. You conserve your own resources. You allow the people that are mad that Preddy got shot, that Good got shot. You allow them to do your battles for you, and then you're able to conserve your resources, your capital, your money for the election. You're basically allows you to do that. So if you push a negative hard enough and deep enough, it'll break through into a counter side, right? Racist, Preddy got shot, people were abandoned, a kid was abandoned by ICE, actually his father, and who ran, and then the kid was taken care of, taken to a McDonald's to be fed, and then found the closest family member. So, but you don't have to say that lie. You don't have to tell the truth, right? If your goal is revolution and radicalizing other people, you don't have to have that. If your goal is like Cloward and Piven to overthrow the system, you don't have to have that. Okay. All right. So the price of a successful attack is a constructed alternative. Excuse me. So you saw this is where I want to bring the Vietnam War out into this kind of conversation. Okay, so we have in America in 2020 a very negative view of the Vietnam War, and we know of mass casualties, Americans dying, protests. You have the whole mass movement of the 70s, late 60s into the 70s. Okay, now where this kind of what you don't realize is the U.S. really was maintaining the war up until the Tet Offensive, and we had media over there, right? We had reporters, you have all the famous reporters from the Vietnam era war over there reporting, putting themselves into the line of duty. Well, until the Tet Offensive in 1968, the U.S. and the South Koreans were doing fairly well at maintaining the North Korean army and the Viet Cong. They were doing very well at public image. The poll numbers from that era are very favorable into the 60s with positives. Let's see here. Let me get the right thing so I'm correct here. All right. So in '65, when we first sent troops over there, it was a 61-24 support. So 61% of Americans in '65 supported sending troops to the Vietnam War. Now, I'm anti-war. I'm pro-American, meaning some would call me an isolationist. I would call myself a nativist, as somebody who, hey, let's take care of us. Why fight the guy 10,000 miles away when our border is is open? Why not? The border is more important than oil fields in Iraq or poppy fields in Afghanistan. So in 65, 66, and into 67, you had positive or even support, 50-50. support of the Vietnam War. Into the late 67, you started to see that kind of decline. 48%, is still okay. So you're starting to lose support. Wars do that as they drag on. They're great supporters in the beginning. If the most dangerous politician is one with low approval numbers, because he's more likely to start a war to boost his poll numbers, just the way it is. But in 68, the Tet Offensive, in early 68, the Tet Offensive take place. The massive, overwhelming power of the Viet Cong and North Korean army was shown, and they lost. Growing up, I always thought they won, because that's when they did win. They won not because they won the battle. They lost 4-1, 5-1. They got massacred. However, they were allowed to display their power in places with media attention, with close to home, embassies, the embassy in Saigon. So different places like that were able to be attacked and repelled, but attacked. And if you're not a soldier, if you're a media crew member and you think the smallest amount of violence in your life is the biggest thing, bombs going off, artillery, mortars, could have been ours defending easy, but it's shell-shocked the media into turning against the Vietnam War. And by the end of 68, you had 37%. And then, all the way down into 71, when we pulled out, you had into the 30s, even high 20s. It was a massive victory for the South Vietnamese on the battlefield. Anywhere between 30 to 50,000 North Vietnamese Viet Cong were killed, and then that includes 45 to 60,000 casualties, which means wounded, captured, or killed. And the U.S. and allies, so that includes Vietnam, that includes South Vietnam, that includes the U.S., that includes all of our allies that were in the area. 9 to 12,000 casualties. Now, I'm not going to argue whether the U.S. should have been over there or not. That's not what this is about. The idea is that, first of all, you see North Korea doesn't care about whether they won the battle. They care about winning the war. And how many people they lose is non-consequential. It's not part of the calculus. Winning is the calculus. It's the Saul Alinsky approach. It's the ends justifying the means. Conserving your energy and allowing the media of your enemy to basically implode on it. Basically, out of the Tet Offensive, you got the U.S. media on your side. So the only way the Viet Cong was going to win during that is to have U.S. not send more troops, to withdraw its bombing campaign, because that was the main artery of the U.S. being there was the air superiority, the bombing of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the covert operations in Laos on the trail to attack the trail that the Viet Cong was using. So different things like that was why the U.S. was effective in Vietnam until the Tet Offensive, when the U.S. media turned against itself, and then it became unpopular to do that. So now we have professors today that grew up in this era, and they are now the professors, the tenured professors, the deans. They're getting up there in age, but they've been able to capture the entire collegiate battleground, so to speak, using the same strategy that their allies in the Vietnam War were able to do. And so lastly, number 13 is pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. again, avoid distractions. Focus on the ones you want to blame that are visible figures. George Floyd, good and pretty, and that's why they try to find that one victim. They don't look at the mass. They don't say, oh, Obama deported more. They'll never do that because that makes them look hypocritical. But you don't want to look hypocritical. You want your enemy to look hypocritical. So that's why pretty and good and George Floyd. That's why they're that person in Maryland that was a Venezuelan MS-13 member. They said he got deported and was a U.S. citizen. Not true, but they always have to have that martyr, that person to kind of rally around and get their way. So. That's how the Democrats have organized since the 70s, 60s. And that their end goal, again, you had a guy 2 election cycles ago introduce universal basic income as their end goal, or as their fix for AI and automation, and the U.S. is being walked into that state by state by state. Eventually, enough people are going to move to Florida that Florida isn't going to be able to sustain itself. It's going to become a Democrat state, because that's what happens when you have millions of people moving here. You create problems. You use Saul Alinsky tactics. And in the end, this is why the urban is always more liberal and more progressive, more socialistic than the rural, because the rural is naturally socialistic, voluntarily socialistic, where the urban must be forced to. We have, in rural communities, you have kind of an era of you help your neighbor, but you're individuals, but you have family in the area, or you have support from your neighbors. Whereas the urban centers are always, I need somebody to take care of me. I need to have somebody steal. That person has more than me. They must give their stuff to me. The Democrats are always organized. They can always pull protesters out of thin air. Republicans never seem to be able to. There used to be the boogeyman of what was his name? I forget that Hungarian's name. Anyways, he was always the boogeyman of the Republican Party. The problem is that the Republican Party has Elon Musk. I mean, for what it's worth, he's always on Twitter doing his thing, or X doing his thing, but he's the richest man in the world. Why can't he outdo somebody who's not even in the top 100 with organization? It seems to be very awkward the way that works out, because they don't. Either he's not the boogeyman, they're extremely organized, or money doesn't do what you think it does in political parties and political organization. So, anyways, thank you for joining me. If you've lasted this long, I appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to support the podcast and more political commentary and outlooks and strategies and different things like that. Comment. Both the algorithm loves both of those, especially the commenting part. But thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.